Hey everyone, it's Richard, and want to say welcome again to the What's Spinning podcast. Hope everything's going well for all of you out there. I hope you're spinning some great tunes. Some of my most recent things I've been spinning are Sonic Temple by The Cult and Wasting Light by Foo Fighters. So Sonic Temple, that's one of my favorites that I had in probably back in middle school. It was one of the first things that I owned on vinyl back when I was in the club days, right? So the BMG Record Club. And Sonic Temple, ordered that probably because Firewoman or Sun King was on MTV. And that record just blew me away. I loved it then. I've loved it ever since then. I think it was released in 1989, and it's a great one. I wish there'd be a good quality repressing of it, but this 1989 copy is not too shabby. It still sounds great on my system, so I will keep playing it until it will no longer play. The other album I mentioned, Wasting Light by Foo Fighters, I've got the 45 RPM double LP release, and if you don't have it, I recommend that you go, you listen to it, you buy it, keep it forever. I know that Dave Grohl is a big vinyl fan. In fact, I guess a few years ago he was the ambassador for Record Store Day, and I have a feeling he is very heavily involved in how their albums are pressed on vinyl and packaged and released, because they're always a higher quality in terms of new albums that are released. It's a higher quality than most other things. They'll have a printed inner sleeve, but then the albums themselves will be in a nicer anti-static sleeve on the inside. And then just the sound quality that comes through on this pressing is amazing. I can't recommend this album enough. I don't think it was as commercially successful as other Foo Fighters albums, but this one to me it's very complete. I think they recorded the whole thing at Dave's house. In fact, I believe the recording of this album was all captured in the documentary Back and Forth, which happens to be the 7th track on this album, I believe. One of the things I really like about this album is some of the collaborations that occur. On the track Dear Rosemary, Dave brought in Bob Mould, which I love him. He's awesome. He has very distinct vocals, and you can hear those coming through on the backing vocals for this song. And then on the song I Should Have Known, he brought in his former Nirvana bandmate, Chris Novoselic. So that's nice there as well. I really just can't recommend this one enough. If you don't have it, go get it. In fact, if you need extra convincing, go to Discogs, look up the 2LP November 2011 release, and just read the reviews there. I mean, everybody's talking about how awesome it sounds. You won't be disappointed. All right, so just want to take a moment again to remind you guys, we're out there on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Spinning Podcast. So get out there, do it up, like some pictures, like some videos, post some comments. You can also send us stuff at podcast@wildhogrecords.com. And let us know some of your favorite albums, things you'd like to hear us do, any comments you have about what we're doing, how we're bringing it to you, and anything you'd like to see done differently. Take some suggestions as well. I think I teased a little bit at the end of the last episode that we would be doing a giveaway. So I'm going to make a little announcement about that now, and that is the album we are discussing today, Music from Big Pink by the band. I've got a sealed copy here that I will be giving away probably on the March 20th episode. So I'm still ironing out some details on how to get involved and how to get entered in this drawing, but we will be doing the drawing during the March 20th episode, and then you'll have to get in contact with me to claim your prize. But definitely keep an eye out on social media, those outlets I mentioned, and we'll be posting rules there and how to get entered. But let's get moving on to the main topic of today's episode and learn a little bit more about that album we'll be giving away and what makes it a great album. Today's album discovery is Music from Big Pink by the band. This album celebrated its 50th anniversary just last year, as it was released on July 1st, 1968. The name Music from Big Pink comes from the house that was shared by Rick Danko, Richard Manuel, and Garth Hudson in New York, and it was named for its pink siding. Most of the album was composed there and then was recorded in studios in New York and Los Angeles in early 1968. That came after they had been Bob Dylan's backing band on his 1966 tour, where they were known as the Hawks. If you've ever heard of Bob Dylan's basement tapes, that was a bunch of music that was improvised and recorded with Bob Dylan and the band in the basement of the Pink House in New York. And just a little bit more background on the personnel of the band themselves. Rick Danko played bass guitar, fiddle, and vocals. Levon Helm played drums, tambourine, and vocals. Garth Hudson played organ, piano, clavinet, soprano, and tenor saxophone. Richard Manuel played piano, organ, and also added some vocals. And Robbie Robertson played electric and acoustic guitars and added vocals. So there wasn't like a set lead singer for the band. In fact, originally Bob Dylan was going to sing on the band's album, but then stepped back and decided to let them make their own statement as a band. That's not to say that Dylan wasn't involved in the whole process of this album. He did help write some songs with the band and then also contributed the cover painting, the artwork for the album. That was done by Bob Dylan. The initial reception of Music from Big Pink was very positive, but sales remained low. Then were later spurred on by songs like The Wait and the band's performance at Woodstock in 1969, and also the inclusion of The Wait in the film Easy Rider, even though it didn't end up on the actual soundtrack. With regards to the top 500 greatest albums list that we've been tracking, this one ranks in at number 34. So pretty high up there on the list. Definitely had a huge impact on a lot of other artists at the time too. In fact, Eric Clapton cited that the album's roots rock style is what convinced him to quit Cream and pursue styles of Blind Faith and Derek and the Dominos and then his debut album. George Harrison also said at one point that he was very impressed by the musicianship and sense of camaraderie. Roger Waters of Pink Floyd also called this the second most influential record in the history of rock and roll, after Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. He said it affected Pink Floyd deeply. Others have cited that this album spawned the Americana genre and also laid the groundwork for roots rock music. As far as a favorite track from this album, I normally try to shy away from the main singles or the most radio played songs, but on this one I have no choice. I have to go with The Wait. It is one of my all-time favorite songs. It's been recorded by so many bands, too many to mention. I think I mentioned recently on another episode that Weezer has done a version of this song, and I love that as well. The writing credits for the song go to Robbie Robertson, although as many band songs have been, the credits are disputed. I think Levon Helm once said that the band worked on both the music and lyrics to all their songs collaboratively, so the writing credits shouldn't go to just one member. But the writing credits for this one are listed as Robbie Robertson. While it is one of the best known songs by the band, it wasn't a very high-ranking single when released. I think it peaked at number 63 in the US. However, it was a top 40 hit in both Canada and the UK, peaking at number 35 in Canada and number 21 in the UK in 1968. However, it's one of those songs that has continued to grow in popularity and influence over time. In fact, it was listed by Rolling Stone as number 41 of the 500 greatest songs of all time, and Pitchfork Media named it the 13th best song of the 60s, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame named it one of the 500 songs that shaped rock and roll. So a lot of accolades. It's highly influential, and as I mentioned, just so many bands have covered it that it's, too many to mention. So let's just listen to a little bit of The Weight, and then I'll be right back.
I pulled into Nazareth, was feeling about half-past dead. I just need some place where I can lay my head. Hey, mister, can you tell me where a man might find a bed? He just grinned and shook my hand. No was all he said. Take a load off, Fanny. Take a load for free. Take a load off, Fanny. And you put the load right on me. I picked up my bag. I went looking for a place to hide. When I saw Carmen and the devil walking side by side, I said, hey, Carmen, come on, let's go downtown. She said, I gotta go, but my friend can stick around. Take a load off, Fanny. Take a load for free. Take a load off, Fanny. And you put the load right on me.
All right, so that is The Weight by the band from their album Music from Big Pink. And as I mentioned earlier, if you would like to own that album but not have to pay for it, we are giving away a sealed copy of the 2LP release, the 50th anniversary edition that came out last year. This is the black vinyl version. I know it also came out in pink vinyl, but that one is a little hard to find. So again, this is a sealed copy, brand new 50th anniversary edition of Music from Big Pink. Check out our social media sites for how to enter the giveaway. Again, we're at Spinning Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. All right, so what have we added to the collection lately? The only one I really have to share this week is it's a compilation album, but not a greatest hits by one band. This is Rama from Epitaph Records. And I think this was released in 1994, if I'm not mistaken. At least that was my first encounter with it. This is an album that I first had on CD my senior year of high school. And it was an introduction to a lot of these bands that I still listen to today. And it's really thanks to the commercial success of The Offspring that I got into this album and these bands. I know as time went on, The Offspring kind of steered away from their punk roots, but this album had some older cuts from them from, I think, maybe their first album. There's two songs from them on here, one called Session and the other called Jennifer Lost the War. Jennifer Lost the War is really good song. It's really, these two are just raw sounding, not like stuff that came out on Smash. And then also, like I mentioned, there were bands on here that had been around and in the punk scene, but me as a senior in high school, I just hadn't been exposed to them yet. So this was my entry into those bands, and there's Bad Religion is on here, NoFX, Rancid, Pennywise, Down by Law, 10-Foot Pole. So, and I think also Gas Huffer's on here. I think Rancid, this was prior to Rancid really coming out with a lot of their radio stuff. I think Ruby Soho and stuff like that happened after this. So it really was kind of Offspring being commercially successful, getting a lot of radio play and MTV play, kind of opened the door for these other bands on the Epitaph label. So like I said, I listened to this nonstop. I remember driving around in my Oldsmobile Cutlass Sierra with the portable CD player with the cassette adapter plugged into the stereo and just playing this all the time. So I think they ended up having multiple volumes of this released to introduce people to other bands that were on the label, but this one, Punk-O-Rama, the first one, I would call it Volume 1. It's not called Volume 1 because it was released before they had additional volumes, but it's just a really great album. And this is, I think, a 2011 re-release on vinyl, and it's on green vinyl. And I got it in the mail maybe end of last week, and I've been doing this thing lately where I'm going through my collection in order of date added to my collection. So basically starting with things that I haven't listened to in a long time and playing those, right? So things that I've been getting in the mail recently or purchasing recently, I'm not playing those because I'm not to that point in my collection yet. But this one, I got it, opened it right up, put it on the turntable, and gave it a spin because I couldn't wait to listen to it. And it did not disappoint. It was exactly as I remembered. And I'm looking at the track list right now. Like the two NoFX tunes on here, they have "Don't Call Me White" and "Liza and Louise," and those are some pretty great NoFX songs on there. Pennywise has a couple on here. Bad Religion has, I think they just have one, but Rancid has a couple. So it's a pretty good selection of songs. If you're into that 90s punk stuff, go check it out. If you can't find it on vinyl, then go find the CD or find the MP3s. Either way, it's worth a listen, and I can't recommend it enough. All right, so that's all I've got for this episode. I think I'm probably going to do one of our short singles episodes towards the end of the week around soundtracks and kind of my ranking of top 10 soundtrack albums. If you haven't had a chance to participate yet in our social media question on soundtracks, I've got that posted up on Instagram and Twitter. I think I might have put it on Facebook as well. There's a video of me flipping through some soundtrack vinyls. And then been getting a lot of information from people on Reddit as well as things they recommend as best soundtracks. So taking all that data, putting it all together, as well as my own opinions, and I'm going to generate a top 10 list of soundtracks. So that should be coming out later this week. As for anything else, I think that's it. So I'll let you guys go. Hope you have a great week. Keep listening to some great stuff, and I'll talk to you later.